Hello and welcome back to the channel again. Great to have you. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Swift. Well, I'm not sure if I'm 100% back yet, but based on the performances over the last couple of days, the signs are certainly improving. I actually surprised myself a bit yesterday in the ITT, where my numbers, while not fantastic, were a lot better than I could have hoped for. So, hopefully a good sign with another 5 tough stages yet to come. And today's stage is no exception. It's going to be a real tough one. If you want a more detailed description of the course, please take a look at yesterday's vlog. But in summary, if you're not careful, I think you can lose a lot of E-gap on the course today. As we can see, there are actually quite a lot of lumps and bumps before and after the New York Com. And again, I think it'll be quite easy to lose the front of the group here unless you're really, really careful and stay alert. And then, of course, is the Com itself, very steep, and we have to go up that not once, but twice.
Why? Why?
And yes, I think the Com, especially on the first lap, is going to be critical today. If you're not able to stay with the front group there, then I think you'll face significant E-gap loss, probably in the minutes. So I'm going to give it the full beans and
Maximum effort.
if I am able to stay with the front group over the Com, then I think it's at least somewhat likely I'll be able to stay with the front group all the way until we need to go up the Com again at the end. And if I get dropped there, then I'll at least limit my E-gap losses quite a bit. So I think this is going to be a really interesting race. I'm not sure how this one is going to pan out, whether it's going to be full gas from the start or whether people are sensible and effectively rest until we get to the first Com when it is going to be full gas. Either way, I'm weirdly looking forward to this one. I know, I'm odd. But before the action, let's have a quick look at the CRP leaderboard after stage 5 and see how I'm getting on. Are there any improvements? Okay, very few changes in the top 10 again, although the positions at the very top changed around a little. Nice to see a bit of a change, for a change. And for me, yes, you should know the drill by now. Scrolling. I am now in 85th place out of 101 riders who have completed all 5 stages. Baby steps towards the top half of the leaderboard. Real, small, baby steps. Okay, time to see if we can earn ourselves a Knickerbocker. A Knickerbocker Glory ice cream, that is. As we roll off the line here, I wanted to quickly comment on my strategy for today's race. As always, you need to be flexible depending on how the race actually unfolds, but my master plan was to try my very, very best to stay with the front group over the first NY Com. I thought the pace would be relatively calm until then, and after the Com, which obviously would be full gas, if I indeed stay with the front group, the pace would settle down a bit until the final climb, where I would most likely lose some E-gap. But not as much as if I lost the front on the first Com. Let's see how my master plan worked out. We have now skipped forward until just before the NY Com. As expected, there had been no real attacks so far, and people didn't really go for the sprint either, which was a relief. The pace had been steady, and my average watts is around 260 or 3.4 watts per kilo, so not fast, but not that slow either. And yes, I am rocking a headband. While I'm sure it does help with dealing with the sweat, the main reason I decided to start wearing one is that my glasses almost fall off when I put my head down during big efforts and sprints. And if that happens, well, I am blind as a bat without them, and even the big screen TV like 1.5 meters away from my face would be useless. So, headbands going forward, I think. Sam, stop. this is not a fashion channel.
No, it is not.
Okay, let's see how we do up the New York com. Again, the plan was to go all out here for me to stay with the front if possible. We actually start climbing before the com proper starts, and the peloton goes hard but steady for the first bit. But when we hit the first steep section of the actual com, people start pushing really hard. I think I'm at 6 watts per kilo or more during most of this section, and that is clearly unsustainable power for me in the long run. We get a bit of rest, well, relatively speaking at least, on the flat section, and then we're at it again. Everybody pushes really hard here, and I am now starting to feel the effort. My heart rate is also creeping closer to 180, which is, as you know, I am still in a reasonable position as we approach the last flat section, but the front is slowly starting to drift away from me here. I try to rest a little and gather myself for the last push, and my heart rate does drop a bit. And when we hit the last steep kicker, I give it everything I have. I still lose the front a bit, but I am hoping we can catch them on the descent. I put in a final dig, and we start going down the other side of the com. I rest a bit, then have another dig to gather some speed, and slowly we seem to be gaining on the front now. I dig again, and all of a sudden we're back with the front. Mission accomplished, but for me at least, at a huge cost, since I was completely spent at this point. It should be noted that the second group are some 20 to 25 seconds behind us at this point, and normally that means that they will be unlikely to catch up to us. But let's see what happens as the race unfolds. The pace in the front group is actually quite slow for the next 3 or 4 kilometers or so, and the chasing group is now, all of a sudden, just a handful of seconds behind. So, in hindsight, I guess I didn't need to push as hard as I did on the NY com, but there was no way of knowing that. Usually the chasing group also slows after a big effort and normally does not catch up to the front group. So kudos to those guys, they must have kept plugging away. As we approach one of the many short, sharp bumps on the course, 2 things happen. I notice that the chasing group is just about to catch us, and I also get a message from AlanB, who, by the way, ended up winning the race in the end. He warns me that he's going to attack and to follow him. Sure enough, he goes off like a bullet, and there's no way I can follow him. But I do up my power as the peloton starts chasing him hard. This effort hurt me quite a bit, as I was not at all recovered from the NY com effort. And Alan does get a gap as we start going down a short descent and towards the next little kicker. Alan, thanks for the warning. Much appreciated. But I think you need to get your head checked if you think I can follow you. Just look at the leaderboard. I am
down as far as they'll go.
We catch Alan on the descent, but then he goes again, hard, on the next little kicker, and the chase is back on. And yes, this hurt me a lot again. We do catch up to Alan, but I suppose his effort had the intended effect, at least on me, as at this point I can tell the rest of the stage will be a real struggle for me. My breathing is now very shallow and fast, even though my heart rate is not that high, and this continued for the rest of the stage. Like I said, I had spent my 1 bullet on the first com, and I just couldn't seem to rest after that, even if we did have sections where the pace was manageable. We have skipped forward slightly to around 10 kilometers to go. I didn't actually notice this during the race, but Alan goes again, and this time he does get a bit of a gap. For me, even though nobody was really attacking, apart from Alan, and nobody followed him this time, I found myself slowly drifting backwards in the group as soon as there was a hint of an increase in pace. And that is usually a bad sign for me, as I like to be up front to see what's going on. Probably the reason I missed Alan's attack this time. So I am really not looking forward to the last climb up to the com at this point. Okay, we are now at the start of the final climb. Alan and another rider, Mr. Hillman, I believe, are some 10 to 15 seconds or so ahead of the rest. For me though, I am already toast. My heart rate is high from a small effort at the last sprint, where the peloton went harder than the first time around for some reason. So I am already off to a bad start for this climb. As we go up the first steep bit before the com even starts, I already know that I will not be able to stay with the front. In fact, I'm already quite far back. But I am hoping to do more of a threshold effort, as that is all about I can muster at this point. I rest a bit on the flat, and then I try to kick when we get to the next steep section, but that effort only lasts about halfway up, and then I'm back to much lower power. I'm completely gassed here and breathing very heavily, but you can see that my heart rate is not really that high, only around 170 or so. But that is a sure sign that I'm really tired when I can't get my heart rate really high. On the next steep section, I try to keep reasonably high watts, but I keep having to have small rests where the power drops quite a bit before I save up some energy to have another dig. I tried to push up the last steep bit before the final flat section, but again, I have to cut that effort short. I rest a bit again, and then pretty much empty the tank on the last kicker. I was being chased at this point by Mr. Atherton, another one of these riders, just like Mr. Steve Knowles in yesterday's vlog, that seemed to be similar in ability to me. So that provided me a bit of final motivation to push all the way to the finish to stay ahead of him. I roll over the line in 21st place, absolutely done in, again. Many congratulations to Alan, Sebastian and Jordi for finishing first, second and third. You guys must have really pushed up that last climb hard, or rather, not faded as badly compared to the first time up it, unlike me. I finished in 21st place, just over a minute behind the winner, and I lost all of that time on the last climb as I was completely toast at the end. But you know what? I am still happy with that result. My goal was to prove that I could stay with the front on the first climb, and I did that, if barely, but that completely cooked me for the rest of the race. But if you don't try, you don't succeed. And in fact, I managed a 5-minute power record on that climb. I know, the rounding is going in my favor here, but I love seeing the 5.0 here. Yes, I know, I'm a
Sad little man.
But at my age, you gotta take the small wins. Steve got the better of me today, congratulations, and had a really strong last climb, finishing in 11th, and Neil was just a few seconds behind me at the end. All right, some post-race thoughts as usual. Whew, that was a tough one. Completely spent at the end. But most important, did you guys like the headband I was rocking? I was planning on channeling my inner McEnroe.
You cannot be serious!
As everybody else flew past me up the New York com. On a serious note, really tough race, but I enjoyed it. And I spent my one bullet on trying to stay with the front group up the first New York com, and I'm really pleased that I managed to do that. And I always thought that if I did, I would stay with them until the last climb, and by then the stronger riders and climbers would go away from me, but at least then I would minimize the E-gap loss quite a bit. In hindsight, with the second group actually catching up to us in the first group after the com, I probably could have gone a little easier on the New York com the first time around, but how was I supposed to know that? So I'm really pleased I stuck with my guns, but that left me absolutely spent after the com, and the second part of the race was a bit of a struggle for me. And there were a few accelerations, and thank you to Alan, who gave me a heads up that he was going to go, and he said, follow, Alan, there is no way I can follow you like that. Forget it. But thanks for the warning. So I really struggled with those accelerations, and normally that's something I'm quite good at. And then by the time we got to the final com, I was toast, and I just tried to minimize the damage as much as possible. So all in all, yeah, not a bad day in the office. Again, I didn't feel 100%, but it was yet another step up from yesterday. So we'll take that. And in fact, I think I managed to break a 5-minute power record on the first com, both in watts and in watts per kilo. I think I had 384 or something, or almost, actually, if you round up, it was 5.0 watts per kilo. Let's call it that. I'm really pleased with that, especially since I still don't feel 100%. Woo. But we have another tough one tomorrow. The Richmond 2015 UCI course, I think. I did that a couple weeks ago in a club ladder race, and that course is pretty brutal. It doesn't look it, but with 4 sprints and those 3 back-to-back short, sharp efforts at the end, it's gonna be one tough affair. Sleep, rest, eat well, and recover. And I hope to see you on the start line tomorrow. Bye-bye.
So, stage 7. Well, this should be an interesting race on a course that may look simple at first, but is anything but. Especially with the sprint segments FRR Race Control have added. Thanks a lot, buddy.
He's evil!
We will do 2 full laps around the Richmond 2015 Worlds course. In total, 33 kilometers with 350 meters of elevation. Again, at first glance, this course looks relatively flat, but do not be fooled. This is going to be a real challenge for 2 main reasons. First, there are 4 sprints on each lap. The first 2 are very short and relatively flat, but the next 2 are brutal, coming on Libby Hill and 23rd Street. Both very, very steep climbs. At least on the first lap, this will make these efforts super hard, and I suspect riders will be dropped on the last 2 sprints for sure. So the first 2/3 of the course is relatively straightforward. And apart from the 2 sprint sections, which again are short, I don't think too much will happen here. But then we get to the back end, and this is much tougher than it looks. I did this course a couple of weeks back in a club ladder race, and man, these little climbs are very, very punchy, and with 3 in a row, it will be very attritional, I think. The first climb is Libby Hill. Details are as follows. As this is also a sprint segment, I think it will be absolutely full gas here on the first lap. In that club ladder race I just mentioned, I managed to do the following on this climb. So it took me around 1 minute 30 seconds, but I think we'll go faster here in this race. Then you hardly get any time to rest at all before you hit the 23rd Street climb. Yet again, this is a sprint segment, so expect maximum effort here. This one is shorter and will take you around 30 seconds or so, but your heart rate is likely already creeping up towards your max range. So this is not easy. And then, again, with not much rest, we have to go up the Governor's Street climb. This is not a sprint, but it is the longest of the 3 climbs, and your legs will be burning here. Again, here are some stats from that recent race, so expect a 1 to 2 minute effort. Then I expect you'll get a bit of rest on the first 2/3 on the second lap. People probably will not push super hard on the sprints the second time around, and thus the key will be the 3 climbs at the end of the course again. But if you can manage to stay with the front until the start of the second time up Libby Hill, you will likely not lose too much E-gap, even if you do get dropped there. So in summary, another very punchy affair. As far as wheel goes, I'm likely choosing disc wheels this time. The climbs are not that long, and there are a lot of flatter section and gentle descents. So drafting will be key to save energy for those really, really short, sharp efforts. As always, I hope to see you on the start line tomorrow. Rest, recover, and go again.